My goodness. I don't want to be an alarmist. I don't want nobody to say I'm sensationalizing anything. But the facts are the facts. And we are in deep, deep trouble. As it relates to our economy and st. Kitts, we are in deep, deep trouble. If something is not done rather quickly, we are going to be in a mess. And so I'm going to jump into the Article 4 consultation by the IMF as it relates to st. Kitts shortly. But like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Alright, so if you browse through certain social media pages, right, you'll see a lot of, maybe alarmist looking kind of rhetoric and that kind of thing, right? Look at this one right here. Saying the Navy CBI collapses 500 million to 150. Alright. Next, more alarmist looking things, right? Saying the Navy's face slowing growth, soaring debt, and shrinking CBI lifeline. IMF latest report. Right, we hear the dramatic music and everything going on behind there, right? Saying the Navy's economic crisis, right? Growth is slowing and structurally weak. Fiscal deficit dangerously high, 11.7% of GDP. Public debt on a rising trajectory towards 78% of GDP. CBI revenue collapsing. Government saving buffers nearly depleted. External imbalances widen. Banking and social security risk increase. No binding fiscal rules. All right, cool. Right? PM Jugan again. Okay. IMF sounds the alarm. So like I said, I don't want to be an alarmist. But Lord of mercy, the truth is the truth, man. We ain't doing good. Right? So let's just run through some of the key points from the IMF Article 4 consultation. Right? So the Article 4 is where, remember the IMF, right? The job of the IMF is to monitor, advise, and then ultimately, as a last resort, they are going to assist in helping countries to become more fiscally stable, right? So something might happen and your fiscal position decline. IMF is there sometimes as a last resort to help you. But mainly, they start out by monitoring, advising, and when push comes to shove, we gotta go to the IMF to beg some money. But they want us to reach there. So they give ample warning before time. They look at see what's going on, right? So that's what the Article 4 mission is all about. The IMF warning us like, we don't want you to come to us, because if you come to us, there'll be problems, right? So here we go. So the news ain't good. The news is not good. Right off the bat. Real GDP. So when it's a real GDP, it means when they factor in inflation, right? So the real GDP is after the factoring inflation, the effect of inflation. So real GDP growth is estimated to have slowed in 2025 to 1.5%. So the economy slowed down in 2025, right? But it's expected to pick up in 2022. Expected to pick up by 2.2% in 2026. Now, keep in mind that these data would have been collected for 2025 and published now. Well, now what happened? We're gone to war. That means gas prices might go up. That means supply chain might be an issue. And so it ain't looking good if you put it into that perspective. So it was expected to pick up to about a mere 2.2% in 2026. But 2026 have started with a bang. And so it could be worse. So let's read what they say here. The slowdown in 2025 reflects weaker than expected construction activity. So no house build, not doing st. Kitts. Despite a recovery in tourism, as well as headwinds from low CBI inflows and fiscal consolidation. So fiscal consolidation is where the government is trying their best to try to pull back on spending, try to save some money. The projected acceleration in 2026 is expected to be supported by a robust construction activities. So they are saying, remember, the IMF is monitoring and they can only use what our people on the ground kind of tell them, right? So they're monitoring. So we are saying, okay, we expect to build whatever construction in 2026. So they're going to use that. Agriculture. Because remember, someone keep talking about greenhouse village, this, that, and the third. So they're going to factor that in and say, okay, if that comes off, then we expect a rebound in 2026. Renewable energy projects. So again, the geothermal. They are saying if geothermal and the solar thing comes off, then 2026 might reach up to the 2.2% in growth. Still small, Still small. But it is some improvement, right? So this is what they're hoping, but we know. Greenhouse Village, almost 3 years, nothing to do. Geothermal, years now, even under Unity, nothing to do. Construction, 2,400 homes, nothing to do. So we know that from history, this might not be the case. Added to that, Trump will start war, gas prices are going to change, inflation is expected, so Lord of mercy, things might get worse in 2026. Over the medium term, growth is expected to strengthen to about 2.5%, driven by renewable energy investments. Again, if geothermal and solar comes up, construction and expanding tourism activity. Inflation is estimated at 1.5% at the end of 2025, supported by lower energy and food prices, and is projected to gradually increase to around 1.8 in 2026. So imagine that inflation, the price of things in St. Kitts, was expected or is projected to increase gradually in 2026 before we even knew that war are going to break out in the Middle East. So you see that low energy thing there? Well, wait till gas price start going up. We're going to see how barley grow. So 2026, after a bad start, they expect inflation to go up. So expect your pockets to be hit. Things are going to get more expensive in St. Kitts in 2026. That's what the people them say, based on their monitoring. We see what's happening in the Middle East, so we know it's a problem. Here again, as CBI windfall in recent years, which led to higher primary spending fades. So you see what they're saying here? Government get CBI money, and they went on a spending spree. And now things with the CBI looking bad, some of them still maintain that spending habit. Talking about labor now. The economy experienced another windfall of CBI revenue between 2021 and 2023, which prompted a significant increase in current spending. Following a sharp decline in CBI revenue in 2024, the authorities have been implementing reforms to streamline current expenditure and mobilize tax revenue. Nonetheless, the fiscal deficit in 2025 is estimated to be high at 11.7% of GDP. My goodness. It gone up. I think something last year was like 2024 was like 9, jump up to 11. So things just keep getting worse. But here it is now. The public debt picked up modestly. Public debt picked up modestly to 58.4% of GDP. But government deposits continue to decline. So debt going up and government savings going down. Recipe for disaster, people. Please don't take this lightly. This is a recipe for disaster. With the public debt going up and the savings of the government going down, this is problems. Persistently low CBI revenue is expected to keep fiscal deficits elevated in 2026 and over the medium term, with public debt projected to rise above the regional threshold this year to support development needs. And the threshold is 60%. Oh my goodness. So we are going to rise above. I mean, like, the way these people behaving, why would they give yourself an increase in salary? We gotta go back to that day. Why would they give yourself an increase in salary? Why you increase the wage bill? We gotta go back to that because we can't understand that kind of mindset there. Even recently, the boss of about Frigate Bay, you had to use CBI money to buy them lands because what is the return? When are you gonna get return on those investments with the lands in Frigate Bay? You're boasting like it's a big, like it's something fancy. But was this the time to mess with the cash flow like that? Was this the time to spend that kind of money? Now, even more frighteningly, right? Listen to this here. Debt sustainability is maintained. However, contingent liabilities from public banks and social security fund pose considerable risk. So people who working for years, put in the social and whatnot, problems are happening with social security now. Problems. I can't really relate to you guys how problematic these events are for us here in St. Kitts. Problematic. Oh my goodness. Against the backdrop of a large fiscal deficit, the current account deficit also remains wide at 14.6% of GDP in 2025. So you're just hearing about deficits and inflation. And these ain't things these ain't things you want to hear for an economy. You don't want to hear deficit widening. You don't want to hear inflation going up. You don't want to hear public debt going up. You don't want to hear these things in the economy. My goodness. This reflects elevated non-fuel imports. Non-fuel imports. So, well, they're going to say, okay, partially driven by the temporary VAT reduction. So a little December little thing, you know, they take down the VAT for imports. Everybody go and spend the money overseas. I mean, Lord, man, we want a little relief for it. IMF, you can't really kill us for that one, right? But had the economy been stronger, that would not have been a problem, right? And the lower CBI application, despite moderating fuel imports, resilient tourism activity, and stable remittances. The external position in 2025 is assessed as weaker than implied by medium-term fundamentals and desirable policies. International reserves remain stable. Wow. So remember when you mentioned the banking thing up here. Problem with the banks, they say here, non-performing loans are an issue. They continue to go down, but they are still an issue. Right? So credit growth in 2025 was strong, 8%, 8.2%, driven mainly by mortgage, construction, tourism-related activities, while corporate lending remains subdued. Credit risk remains the primary source of vulnerability, while market risk has eased somewhat following banks' rebalancing of investment portfolios away from equities. Nonetheless, vulnerabilities remain elevated, reflecting large and concentrated non-performing loans, weaknesses in provisioning quality, and still sizable and relatively risky investment portfolios. People ain't paying back their loans them. A lot of the loans in the banks are not performing. And so when it's national giving out money and whatnot, and they tell you no, you gotta be going to tell you no. Because for the most part, there are too many non-performing loans. And that is a problem for the economy in St. Kitts. Hear this now. External risks include heightened global policy uncertainty, including related to CBI program, geopolitical tensions, and volatility in the commodity and financial markets, which will weigh on the CBI inflows and tourism and adversely affect banks' investment portfolio. So again, this was done before we even knew war would break out in the Middle East. So you know things going to be going downhill even further. One orange man just messing up the whole world, boy. One orange man messing up the whole world. And that way, it was so disappointing that Joe and them didn't call out Trump at the CARICOM meeting. But that's for another video. Check the video on the CARICOM, my view on the CARICOM thing. Alright, now here's it now. Now, like I said, IMF advises governments. And so they're going to advise. We're not going to like the advice, but they're going to advise. But if we're in a stronger position, we would not even have to take on the advice at all. Right? So, fiscal consolidation supported by strong fiscal resilience framework is critical to stabilize the debt, restore buffers, and reduce vulnerability to shocks. We had so much buffers during COVID time, a lot of buffers during unity time. That's why we could afford to pay people in government and not lay off anybody during COVID, and even extend to private citizens. You give them $1,000 and stuff like that, right? So we had buffers back then, but all that gone. All that gone. And you can't see why. You can't see where the money gone when labor spending, where the money gone. All right, look at this one here now. Current expenditure requires further rationalization. At about 34% of GDP in 2025, it remains significantly above both pre-pandemic averages of 23% and the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union regional average of 24%. So they're saying here, our current expenditure, our spending is way out of order, way above the average in the region, and way above pre-pandemic averages. Our current expenditure spending. Please keep in mind, current expenditure includes salaries, right? Includes all of the not only salaries, but all of the allowances and those things that people get in government. All of the traveling allowance, traveling per diem, all those things. And we know that this government, for their part, they have hired advisors can done. They have increased their salaries to ridiculous levels. They travel so much, so per diem got to get paid. And we see that their behavior shows that they are not fiscally responsible individuals. We could see that. We got to and her. We could see that. And all these weird policies they put in place and programs like Aspire and these things that spend the money we ain't got. We could see that they don't care. They just want to look good. They want to be seen. They want the pockets filled. And so our current expenditure is above regional levels and above pre-pandemic levels. And by a lot too. So we're talking above by 10%, above regional 24 to 34, and way above pre-pandemic 23 versus 34. I remember working in agriculture, and the previous government had the offices up there, agriculture offices, and when the them come in, they say, watch here, you want the whole top floor. You want the whole top floor. All the advisors and this and that, and 10 permanent secretaries in the office for the Prime Minister and all these things. Ridiculous. Too many persons sucking off a labor breast. Too many persons getting paid and they're not putting in the work. And that is why you see current expenditure that high. They're just spending like drunken sailors. Tax revenue below ECC average, oh my goodness, has ample room to increase. COVID era concessions should be rolled back, including those for unincorporated businesses taxes. You hear what they're telling us? You hear what IMF say? You hear what IMF say? We gotta carry up with taxes. Right? Because the economy is such a dismal state, we gotta carry up with taxes. So we got to roll back pre-COVID era concessions. That's why you see them move with step, because they need to get back money. Right? Including those for unincorporated businesses. So businesses, I gotta pay more tax. Duty exemption for tourism operators. Well, I would have, wow. Suggested measures include introducing more progressive property tax rates. So they are saying bring back property tax in a progressive manner, meaning that the more expensive your property is, the more you pay. I ain't got a problem with that. You're making the money, help people get in the kitty. But here's the bad part though. Broadening the VAT base. So remember, Unity took VAT off of food, took VAT off of certain services. And so because the economy is so terrible now, they are saying, we need to find more things to put VAT on. That's what IMF recommending because of how our economy is. Increasing excises on, I don't mind this, alcohol, tobacco, sure, why not? Fossil fuels, not too sure about that because that's at the pump, that's care, that's environmental tax and them kind of stuff. That's no, we don't want that. But they're recommending it. Raising rate for top earners. Okay, again, you're making the money. Like everybody say, rich people gotta pay more. Right? And taxing non-labor income. Oh wow. So that's like taxing things, maybe like rental fees and all those incomes that you don't have to work for. Interest on certain things, tax them things. Tax administration should be further strengthened through enhanced enforcement and compliance. I agree with that. Continue to, if people owe you, go collect your money. They owe you, collect the money. If I owe the people, then pay them the tax, please. Because the economy in a dismal state. Y'all owe, pay the tax for me, please. And thank you. All right. Strengthening fiscal reliance framework. So we're not going to go too much into that, but I want to focus on some other things, right? Focus on some other things here. Now, this is very disheartening. Is it necessary? I don't know. But it's very disheartening. They are saying we need to reform Social Security. And sooner rather than later. Because they are saying Social Security reserves could be depleted by 2040. By 2040. So they are saying term reforms to adjust contribution rates, so increase how much we put into Social Security, raise the retirement age, and extend minimum contribution period is what they're recommending. So they expect us to change up Social Security by increasing our contribute, raise the retirement age. This is problematic. If the economy wasn't in such a bad state, we would not be talking about these things. But here's the thing. Look at this right here. Comprehensive reform of the development bank is essential to safeguard financial and fiscal stability. So all the talk, Joe talk about he fixed development bank. All the talk, he bang him up about Timothy Harris' brother. Timothy Harris and development bank and development and the 50 years and look here, 4 years in and development bank is still a massive liability. So what did I do down there? What did I do down there? So who in charge down there? Because 4 years in and development bank is still a problem. 4 years in. Yeah, I need to look to see who in charge down there. Because things ain't making sense. Let's look here now. The bank is heavily undercapitalized with a high non-performing loans ratio, persistent losses, and significant reliance on public funding. I mean, if the government ain't got money, how are they going to get money to put into the development bank? But they are forced to. Particularly from the, you read it right, you read it correct, the SSF, Social Security Fund. Put a pin in that. Let me go up here. Hear what I say here? The SSF is about to be depleted by 2040. And yet, here we are saying that one of the main drivers of public funding to the development bank is the same Social Security Fund that is very close to being depleted. What are they doing? What madness is this? This is crazy. The bank is heavily undercapitalized with high non-performing loan ratio, persistent losses. So the bank making losses. So, as I asked before, what is happening down there? So Prime Minister Drew, you're making a big fuss about auditing. Please audit the bank. Please audit Social Security. Let us see what is really happening to those numbers. So why are some of us, why are older folks going to be paying? Like, you're depleting the reserve for Social Security. They don't work in the younger days. And we mess it there. We don't work in the younger days. And in a few years, you're saying we might not have anything to fall back on. And what is development bank doing? Like, where the money going? Right? Now look at this thing that strikes to the heart of one of the problems you're facing here in St. Kitts. Because you're talking about go get more babies, whatever, nonsense. Hear this, Potential growth has declined over the past decade, reflecting weak investment and declining contributions from human capital. You know what I mean? They're saying our people, we're not investing in our people, in their skills, in their education, and so therefore they cannot come home or they cannot contribute to society in a meaningful way, in a productive way that would cause growth in the economy. We're not being productive. Our people, we're not being productive because we lack the skills, we lack the knowledge, the information to be productive. Firm level evidence points to key obstacles including access to finance, skills shortages, and restrictive trade regulation. Skill shortages. So our people are not being educated in the way that it should be. We hands-on, the skills in certain areas doesn't exist anymore. And all of these things go back, go way back, they say decades. Because keep in mind that a school like Sadler School is supposed to be a technical school to develop skills among our people. Keep in mind that the multipurpose workshop that these students used to go on was basically cancelled during the Dougie administration. But what I'll give them props for, the current Joe administration, is the fact that they are making some moves on the CVQ and NVQ side of things. And so they are trying to ramp up that technical prowess of our country. Right? The council was not moving for years, even under Unity. I remember when I was there and I was in charge of the education initiative in agriculture, and I had a meeting with the CEO of the CVQ council and whatnot, and Tibet, right? The Tibets and that kind of thing, and nothing still. So I'm happy that they were able to make some advances in the world of CVQs and NVQs, right? CVQs are more the technical qualifications from CXC, and that can translate across the region. So our people can get those papers and move in the free movement, have the papers to move and work elsewhere, and vice versa. So we need that, really need that. But the NVQs are there, they're working on right now. CVQ is supposed to come next. Given constrained fiscal and human resource capacity, adopting a focused national development strategy is critical. The strategy could consider concentrating limited resources on a smaller number of high-impact sectors, such as tourism, selected services, the green and digital economy, and aligning, key point here, aligning education and skills development, focusing on renewable energy transition and infrastructure development. Such prioritization, supported by public-private collaboration, will be essential to lift potential growth. And so again, I must say I'm happy with the move with the STEP program. Come man, let public-private sector help with this thing. But we still need to train our people. We still need to improve our human capital for certain areas, especially areas you deem a part of the what do you call it? The sustainable island state, right? Where are the scholarships for agriculture? Where is the investment in agriculture, especially at the primary school, high school level? Right? So these are things we have to think about. Our human capital. We need to reform education. Because it was disheartening to me to hear that in some schools, history is not compulsory. It's an option. Literature is not compulsory. It's an option. These are subjects that allow students to think critically, read more. And with the age of AI, that is what is lacking. Critical thinking and the lust to learn, the hunger to learn and to read and to advance themselves instead of relying on AI so heavily. And so when you look at the school system, need to be examined from top to bottom, because I don't understand why, for example, they want to implement all these new teaching methods in primary school when the old way of doing things work for us who are deemed some of the brightest set in the country. Generation Z is going to be one of the first generation not to be brighter or smarter than the prior generation. Millennials, we still got it because we ain't had no AI to rely on them kind of nonsense. We grew up in the rough and tumble way, the last set at least. We had classes where we were streamed, A1, A2, A3, we were streamed. So we're able to find your way and fight to get to the top. We grew up where we get positions in class. You come first, second, third, fourth. So you come 12th, 13th. You know you gotta fight your way to the top. Right now in education, they want to say who come last because the train gonna feel a certain way. They want stream because they're gonna feel a certain way. They want to mix up subjects, mix agriculture and integrated science and all kind of foolishness. They want to go primary school talking about thematic learning and learn to play and all these kind of... No, don't let the foreigners influence how we educate our children. Because for years, we were doing it right. Look at our early childhood, pioneering early childhood program. Person used to come from the region to study our early childhood. And now they want to change it. And in my opinion, not for the better. So, Jeffrey and education, step out of nonsense, step out of dumbing down education. Right? I'm not saying they're the only cause because it's happening for a while now. Test a standard no longer a certain way. These kind of things. No man, we gotta get back to the hardcore educating our children. The hardcore way, not the soft play way. The real way that all the others of us grew up in. With 80s children, 90s children, 70s children. Get back to that kind of education. It worked for those who are in leadership now. The prime ministers, the doctors, the lawyers, those who are millennials and older. It works. So why are you depriving our younger generations of that level of education, that robust level of education? Let's get back out there. You could hardly find a skilled plumber in St. Kitts, a skilled tileman. You could hardly find it. I remember going to Washi and we had electricity, we had metalwork, we had woodwork in this one school. We had all them things there. Right? I don't know going on with EDPM and those kind of things, but back in the day when they had typing, people left school knowing how to work a keyboard. I don't know what's going on today. I got children I teaching, they can't maneuver a keyboard. But yes, they pass EDPM. So you have to work on all these things to get our human capital up there, more productive. Alright, so we have to work on that. Accelerating renewable energy projects would help to reduce energy costs for businesses, mitigate external vulnerabilities, and support economic diversification. So I am wholeheartedly behind that. Let's get the geothermal up and running. Let us get the solar panels up and running. Let us reduce energy, because if we reduce energy, that means now that we can have a lower cost of production. And so we're able to sustain ourselves. We could even encourage persons to invest in St. Kitts if our energy supply is that robust. Because we're saying things like AI, which is the future apparently, they require a lot of energy to produce those queries that you all have to type into ChatGPT. They need a lot of energy. And if we're able to provide cheaper energy, we can lure big companies into our country to do business. We can do that. So let's get this thing up and running. Whoever government in charge, let's get it up and running, the renewables. Let's go. Enhancing trade regulations and procedures would help unlock trade potential and improve competitiveness. So I remember working in agriculture, and a bunch of us came together, designed a program to try to get Ministry of Trade to do their job. To find ways, to find loopholes, to make our local agriculture more competitive. But, that's too much work. WTO. This, more excuses. There are levers to pull in trade that can help to benefit our local economies. Import bills still going up. Every year. Because there's nothing in place to protect our local agriculture. We are at the whims and mercy of imported goods. And if you're not pumping money into agriculture, for example, how are we going to be competitive with the imports? It's not only agriculture alone, but, produce agri-processing, our jams, jellies, our sauces, all those kind of things. Oh my goodness, the days are gone. We had Nova. Remember Nova? Yeah, we used to make our own macaroni, make our own corn curls, make our own snacks, Sing's dairies, Kitchen Pride, all those things. So we have to find ways to enhance our local producers, help them become more competitive on the market. I've suggested many ways. Tariff level right there. Non-tariff barriers are there to erect. There are things you can use. But for whatever reason, we have persons in positions that don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. And so they feel as though their job is just to monitor and see what's going on with WTO. Trump comes to us a 10% tariff. WTO way. WTO who? You understand? Nobody's saying tread on the laws, the rules. But the WTO, through their different agreements, the amber boxes, the different boxes, blue box, this box, green box, they offer ways where you can pull those levers and help to protect some of our local markets and industries. Continued effort to improve data adequacy are essential. The data provided to fund have some shortcomings that somewhat hamper surveillance. Data provision should be improved to support evidence-based policy design and implementation, particularly in areas of national accounts, prices, and external sector statistics. So let me just put a pin in that right there, because there is this one politician who keeps going around touting how he has made the fisheries sector so much improved, so profitable. He had this one marker. They brought in $19 million worth of fisheries, whatever. But guess what? The reason why you're not feeling that, the reason why nobody taking that on, is because the data. Show us the data. Show us the data. Because a lot of flawed data is being collected and touted about, especially under agriculture. A lot of flawed data. Agriculture collect data in such a flawed manner that FAO and those organizations cannot use the data collected by agriculture. So when you see production data, you gotta think twice. When you see fisheries data, you gotta think twice. Right? So don't let certain ministers fool y'all talking about $19 million. Where's the data? How was it curated? How was it analyzed? How was it, these are things educated people would ask and not just believe the nonsense that some of these ministers spit out. Because if it was 19 million, you would have seen it in the economy. You would have seen the impact. You would have seen more persons going into fishing. You would have seen more fish being provided. You would have seen the fisheries popping up, looking healthy. But you're not seeing it because none target so. So I want to end this video by just looking at some sobering statistics and look at where we are going in terms of a country. Look at our national debt, total public debt, as a percentage of GDP. So again, when they say a percentage of GDP, they're speaking about how much money we make, right, as a country, and then what percentage of that money represents public debt, right? So they are saying here that it is climbing. It is going to be 58.1. In what year is that? 2024 it was 58. 2025 58.4. 2026 is projected to increase to 63%. 2027 68 up to 2031, where they're saying our national debt is going to be a whopping 78% of our GDP. So the value of our national debt is going to equate to 78% of the money we're making in the country. That's what they're saying. 78%. They're saying by 2031, if our country is making $1 billion in GDP, 780 million, that's what our national debt is going to be. Right? Keep that in mind. That's how dire things are right now. We're in trouble. But just understand that this government is not operating as though the country is in fiscal distress. And this is where people complain about the constant flying, because you know it's a waste of resources. So even though the per diem might be a fraction of the overall GDP, it is still a waste of resources. And so they don't care though. Increase the salary, they don't care. All this traveling brought back nothing, no investment. Tell me what project you see on the horizon that can allow for massive returns for our country. Tell me what you see on the horizon that would allow you to say, okay, yeah, I could see down the line, we're going to start making money from that. The new hospital, how are we going to make money from that just now? The desalination plant, they just launched. That has an operating cost in the millions annually. And that means that you might have to charge more for water, so they're going up. What else? Show me what else. What else project out there you can see bringing relief, financial relief to us as a country? What else do you see out there? Being honest here, what else do you see this government is putting into place that can stimulate the economy in such a way that you say, yeah, better days are coming? What ideas are they putting forward that you can say, yes, I see where the investment is in our people. I see where the investment is in our students. Where is it? Show me. So, I mean, what are the other projects? Banning the plastic. How is that going to improve our fiscal condition in St. Kitts? Show me what project is in the pipeline that would significantly increase our physical condition. The best I can give you is, and I want it to come through so badly, the geothermal. Because with low energy costs, that can really spur some economic activity. The geothermal. Housing, nothing doing for housing. So we can't even say, okay, a good project coming down the stream for housing, which means that our people are going to have more money in the pocket because low income. Agriculture. The minister doing nonsense. Because why is it that the government going to invest in their own farm using step workers to further increase the wage bill, as opposed to take that 5.5 million invested in farmers so that they can now increase the production, hire more people, spread the love across the economy? This is just simple things. You see Drew talking about, okay, card in home need repairing, renovating. You think Drew gonna pay somebody? No. He want the prisoners the job. The money gonna trickle in the economy. Let me show you something that the IMF pointed out before I finish. Right? Let me show you something that they pointed out that is very, very, very telling about this country. Look at this. Look at this, what the IMF said. Right? Look at what this IMF said. Formally adopting fiscal rules anchored in adjusted primary balance is essential to reduce reliance on the CBI revenue and strengthen credibility of the fiscal consolidation path. Okay. While the stated objective of reaching the regional 60% debt ceiling by 2035 signals commitment, the target is not legally binding. And St. Kitts remains among the few Eastern Caribbean Currency Union countries without formal fiscal rules. That's what they want. They're gonna anchor. They're gonna not to say, okay, here's what we're aiming for. Let's stay disciplined. Let's reach there. There's nothing. Contributing to fiscal procyclicality. You hear the word there? Fiscal procyclicality. So, and limited. So let me break down that for you guys. This is very important. Right? Very important. So fiscal procyclicality refers to government fiscal policies, spending increases, or tax cuts that move in the same direction as the economic cycle, amplifying booms and worsening recessions. So let me break that down to you guys what that really means, right? So look at here. What this means is that the business cycle is boom and bust. So ever so often, the economy will be booming, things nice, people getting employed, everybody got money in the pockets, things nice, everybody booming, money in back. Then you have what you call the downside of the business cycle, the bust. That's where things looking brown. People broke, people getting laid off, money tight, economy slow. What they are saying here is that currently our government is one such that when things are booming, they increase the spending. When things are booming in the economy naturally, the government go and increase the spending. And when things are slowing down, things are tight, the government pull back the spending. Now we always say there's a problem with labor because nobody knows economics. When things slow down, that is when government spending supposed to increase to boost the economy. So things slowing down, build a school, which means hiring people, boosting construction, get the economy back up and going. Things slow down, infrastructure repair. Things slow down, launch a particular program to boost the economy, because the point is to boost the economy. You can't be that when things are slowing down, you cut down too. When things slow down, you can't pull back too. That means the economy going to deepen the recession. It's going to get worse, and that's what we're seeing today in St. Kitts. That is why they're talking about the cutback and pop, the cutback and this, cutback and that. That's why things feel so depressed today in St. Kitts. Because the government don't understand their role. They don't understand when the economy is slow, that's when government spending is supposed to increase. Do not increase it when things are good already. Let the private sector handle that. But the reality is, I can't tell us we had a good business cycle. When last? We came out of COVID, and unfortunately, coming out of COVID, unity break up, and we get these people in charge who don't understand a thing about the economy. And they come through spending, and not on the right things to boost the economy. Some person might say whatever, but do you think we have any right with a program like Aspire when things tight? Putting money there to sit down? For what? Put the money to work. Invest. Put it to work. Do you think we got cause 5.5 million in paper project and farm? Why? Invest that into the economy, the local farmers, so they can now boost the economy for you. You think we got cause going to buy the courthouse down for Fortlands? I saw that in the budget that the Ministry of Justice is going to buy the courthouse down there. What happened to the one across the square? Are you telling me the mole and whatever is so bad that you can't repair it? So they are all the traveling. So why? So you see where money is leaking that we need to invest elsewhere to spur economic activities. So the point here is that these people can't do. They don't understand the job. They don't understand the assignment. You could see it in their willfulness. You could see it in their body language. You could see it in what they say, how they operate, like they know what they do and nobody tell me nothing. But IMF telling you, we want you to come by your son because, hey, if you come by, there's a problems. But they don't see it that way. Alright, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think in the comment section below.